The Russian government announced that President Vladimir Putin will not be attending the BRICS summit to be held next month. Instead of President Putin, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will represent Russia. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will represent Russia at the summit. A spokesperson for South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said that the decision was taken by mutual agreement from both sides. The announcement comes after the International Criminal Court ordered the Russian president to be arrested for war crimes in Ukraine. US President Joe Biden met with his Israeli counterpart Isaac Herzog at the White House. Biden highlighted the close ties between the two nations, but concerns were raised over Israel's controversial judicial reforms, as well as ongoing settlement construction in the West Bank. President Herzog emphasized that despite the debate over judicial reforms, Israeli democracy is strong and resilient. In a separate meeting, Herzog also met U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Blinken stressed Washington's commitment to Israel's security. With the general elections in India just 8 months away, the ruling NDA has expanded its alliance with 39 members or partners. This is 26 opposition parties have united under a new name, INDIA, or India. This is an acronym for Indian National Development or Inclusive Alliance. The Prime Minister said alliances have been a part of our political history, but negative alliances have not worked in India. He also added that for his own party's National Democratic Alliance, coalition is not a symbol of compulsion, but a symbol of contribution. Thailand's constitutional court has suspended Prime Ministerial candidate Peter Limjaroenrat from the country's parliament. The suspension follows the court's acceptance of a case alleging that Peter was unqualified to run for the Prime Minister's post in the upcoming elections. It is alleged that Peter did not declare an inherited shareholding in media company ITV before running for parliament as per Thai laws. Members of parliament are not permitted to own stocks in media companies. North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles eastwards from the Sunan area in Pyongyang, just hours after an American nuclear-armed submarine made its first South Korean port call in 4 decades. The Japanese Defense Ministry estimated both the missiles to have fallen outside Japan's exclusive economic zone east of the Korean peninsula. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff condemned what it called grave provocative acts. It said the missile tests are a clear violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions. A large piece of alleged space debris that washed up on the beaches of Western Australia has now been removed. The cylinder, which fits the description of a solid rocket mortar casing, has been moved to a secret location by the Australian Space Agency. Earlier, social media users speculated that the cylinder could be part of the LVM-3M4 rocket launched by the Indian Space Research Organisation. The LVM-3 rocket carried India's Chandrayaan-3 mission to Earth's orbit. In its first meeting on artificial intelligence, the United Nations Security Council discussed the potential risks involved in the usage and implementation of AI. Both US and China expressed their concerns, with China saying the technology should not become a runaway horse. The United States warned against its use to censor or repress people. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called out the technology for its potential risks. Guterres also highlighted how United Nations has an opportunity to set globally agreed upon rules for monitoring and regulating AI. He called for a new international body to help govern the use of the technology. A report by the Financial Times claims that China is deleting its COVID data. One of China's most populous provinces, Zhejiang, has deleted its mortality data. The data shows how Beijing's relaxation of COVID-19 controls at the end of last year led to a heavy rise in the number of deaths after that. Chinese officials promised to study and make excess death data public and say that the data should be used to clear out any possible doubts. At least 16 people have been killed due to electrocution in India's Uttarakhand. The incident took place inside a sewage treatment plant located in the state's Chamoli district. The sewage plant is part of the Indian government's efforts to conserve the Ganges. The deceased include a police officer and 3 personnel from the Home Guard. A magisterial inquiry has been launched into that incident. Six people have been injured in a multi-vehicle collision in Australia's Queensland. The collision included a US military tank. The American Abrams tank was due to take part in a live military exercise on Saturday. The collision caused a massive explosion leading to a grass fire in the vicinity. Scuffle between the Israeli police and demonstrators have been reported in Jerusalem as protesters observed a day of national resistance in Israel against judicial reforms bill. A retired Israeli Air Force general said 161 of the Corps' reserve officers had vowed to no longer report for duty. The officers, with ranks ranging from major to brigadier general, notified the military of their decision over the last 3 days and would publish a joint statement with names redacted. Climate activist group called Just Stop Oil has been spotted in London defacing the headquarters of the Energy Security Department. 2 demonstrators armed with large containers of paint sprayed the walls of the Energy Security Office. The activist group stated that the energy headquarters was targeted for issuing fresh oil and gas licenses. Prior to this, the group was spotted at the Wimbledon Tennis Championship too. Britain is slated to face more work disruptions in the healthcare sector in the coming days. As per a report in The Guardian, UK's National Health Service is going to face further strikes after the government introduced a revised pay for medical staff. Protests are expected to flare up again in the month of August. The government's pay hike to deter protests amounted to 6%. This stands far short of the Medical Association's demand of a 12.4% rise. Thousands of Hondurans marched in the capital city of Tegucigalpa in support of a new tax bill. The bill seeks to put an end to public-private corruption networks which grant the privilege of not paying taxes to select businessmen. According to the organizers, more than 10,000 protesters poured on the streets and roads and marched towards the Honduran Congress. Protesters were spotted with banners reading, "Yes to the tax justice law." Kenyans were out on the streets again to protest against President William Ruto's government. The opposition had vowed to protest for 3 days and join calls for a solution to the political crisis. The government has issued a warning stating the demonstrations will not be tolerated after earlier protests led to the death of a dozen people. Schools were closed and shops shuttered in capital Nairobi and other cities. Meanwhile, leaders called on protesters to bang pots and stage marches as an act of defiance against William Ruto's government. Fresh clashes broke out in Dhaka as activists from the main opposition party, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, demanded the resignation of the ruling government. The incident reported 1 death and 50 injuries. Supporters of the BNP clashed with the ruling party's student wing Bangladesh Chhatra League in the capital city Dhaka. The clashes come as the BNP and its allies launched a nationwide march as part of the opposition party's one-point movement centering to the next general election in 2024. Afghan women are coming out onto the streets to protest against the latest beauty salon ban. The ban was brought in by the Taliban government in what they call an effort to make the nation Sharia compliant. Taliban authorities have ordered beauty parlors across the country to shut within a month. The move follows the banning of Afghani women from high schools, universities, parks, and even gymnasiums. Forest fires continue to burn in several villages in Switzerland. About 200 firefighters worked alongside the army and police to douse the flames through the afternoon and night. Multiple villages were evacuated due to fears of landslides and rocks falling. 3 villages have been evacuated so far. Switzerland is being affected by the same Mediterranean heat wave that's affecting southern Europe. Temperatures are set to exceed 30 degrees Celsius in the coming days. According to Counterpoint Research, India overtook Germany and France for iPhone sales in the June quarter and is now behind the UK, Japan, China and the US as the 5th largest market for the iPhone. India contributed close to 4% of all iPhone sales in the second quarter. According to the research firm, the firm was not able to disclose the exact number of iPhone sales, but said they grew 50% year on year. The rapid growth in India comes as Apple ramps up its presence in India from a retail and manufacturing perspective. A California court jury said Johnson & Johnson's must pay $18.8 million to a California man who said he developed cancer from exposure to its baby powder. The jury ruling is a setback for the company as it seeks to settle thousands of similar cases over its talc-based products in the US. Tens of thousands of plaintiffs have sued Johnson & Johnson, alleging that its baby powder and other talc products sometimes contained asbestos and caused ovarian cancer. In a stunning turn of events, the Australian Securities and Investments Commission has made a bold move by cancelling the license of FTX Australia, the local arm of the once thriving US cryptocurrency exchange. This decision comes amid a global wave of regulatory scrutiny that has left the industry reeling. FTX, once valued at a staggering $32 billion has been grappling with bankruptcy and the inability to repay its customers. Founder Sam Bankman-Fried finds himself in the crosshairs of a criminal lawsuit by the US government, vehemently denying allegations of fraud. The Biden administration has announced a cybersecurity warning label for electronic devices. The US CyberTrust Mark will inform users whether the electronic device they are going to purchase meets the government-set cybersecurity standards or not. A nationwide cybersecurity certification program will determine products that are less vulnerable to hacking. Foxconn has bought equipment worth $33 million from an Apple unit for expansion in India, and India's subsidiary of the Taiwanese company Foxconn acquired equipment from Apple for operational needs. India's Minister of Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal, expressed earlier this year that Apple wanted to manufacture 25% of new iPhones in India. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.